reporters, but also including vulnerable persons like women with disability. This gathering today is supported by Kaftan Foundation and also the Executive Journalism Center for training of journalists, especially reporters in this space. About 20 to 25 of them are being trained to understand what it means to also have inclusive stories relating to women and girls, especially issues concerning equality, politics, and of course issues pertaining to governance. And this is not something that is far-fetched for us, because we've just seen in the last election women, performed very poorly. And one of the issues that were raised also were visibility for women and how deliberate is the media in inclusive reporting for women issues and women rights. So this training today will bring to bear issues on data resourcing, also accountability reporting, and holding government accountable on gender and women's rights issues, gender budgeting, and safe spaces for women also are some of the things that I will be looking at in this conversation. And I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be a continuous effort, because what happens is that once they get the training, they get back into the newsrooms, the spaces where they report, they're able to look at every story, every engagement through a gender lens and make sure that they hold government accountable.
To what extent do you think this training will change the narrative? Because over the years we have trainings like this, and during elections you will see the results will come, and it's like it's getting poorer from every election cycle from one to the other. So what extent do you think this will change the narrative?
I think that's why we have the collaborative media engagement by Executive Journalism Center. One of the key things that it seems to do is to bring together different media personalities and people with their forte in different media to look at issues concerning different spaces. So for us, it is women advocacy and looking at gender rights. Now, it is instructive you ask that question, because this is our second training since we started this engagement with the organization. And what I can tell is that because of the availability of data through this training, people are able to resource and refer to some of the past and previous numbers to be able to determine where we have gone from where we were and what we used to do. And now going forward, what we intend to do with this training going forward is to begin to use these numbers to create a lot of conversation and advocacy with institutions of government, stakeholders, to begin to demand what next. Because whether we like it or not, it is not just the media that is in the space to seek accountability, the civil society as well. So, but what the media does is that the media takes the front line space to bring facts to some of the issues and begin to coordinate engagement between stakeholders.
You said this is not the first in the series. What has been the achievement so far?
Yes, the achievement so far has been that, in the newsrooms, in some of the reportage, people are now very deliberate in looking at stories with gender lenses. So for instance, on health, they're asking you what is the public health system and how it's beneficial for women living with disabilities. How do we also look at reporting the numbers of women who emerged at primaries and the political party level? So there's a lot of consciousness to data gathering. There's a lot of consciousness to using those data and the analysis and the research done by the organization to seek for answers through stakeholders. And I can tell you that some of the engagements we have had, like the town hall meetings that we have had, was as an aftermath of this training, where the reporter said, we need to have a town hall for women to look at issues to discuss women's role in politics and also women's rights. So I think it has gone quite far.
All right. Once again,
as a gender activist there has been a kind of exponential increase in the the violence against women. How do you think this particular training will work towards reducing the increase in violence against women?
One of the things that the training is going to also do is look at policy literacy for the trainees, the reporters and the journalists, to be able to look at the bills and how effective they are. For instance, we just have a national gender policy revised bill, policy. How is that being implemented? Because within that bill, there is a sequence that shows the rules and the nomenclature of what happens within a sexual and gender-based violence environment. Also, the 5 gender bills. They are also being asked to look at and review some of those bills that were failed at the legislature. So this is a consciousness kind of training where they actually activate the need to sustain engagement in the politics of executive. The federal government just highlighted that they have started nominating people for several positions. But we are saying beyond the positions, how are we looking at bills that will favor women? How are we looking at policies to engage women's rights? And that is what this training will do, to activate consciousness of reporters to seek for the answers and hold government accountable.
Joining once again.
Adora Sigujag.
Okay, my role basically was to try to expose and maybe reiterate the role of the media in gender accountability. Gender accountability, of course, involving the promotion of issues around gender equity. Because of patriarchy, many people are averse to the use of the word equality. And so we're also consciously teaching the media to advisedly pick their words. Most men raised in patriarchy would not support a gender equality bill, but may be more open to supporting a gender equity bill. So part of what we are doing by this training is also to open the minds of journalists to also deliberately and strategically using words that can encourage the passing of certain bills that help to promote the interest of gender and to eliminate gender discrimination. You will notice that in the 9th National Assembly, 5 gender bills failed. Part of the reasons, underpinning reason of course being patriarchy, that men do not want to hear anything about women's equality and all. Remember even the history of the Act that was eventually passed in 2015. It had taken over a decade of fighting for it because when it was couched, it was violence against women, then it was violence against girls bill. But the moment the advocacy improved and the name was changed and it came to violence against persons prohibition act, the men who dominate the parliament were more open at that stage to passing it. So this is a training that is an empowering training, one to open the minds of journalists to renew their knowledge of the role of the media in balancing and in promoting gender accountability, and to teaching them nuances, practices within the professional purview and ethics, how they can hold government accountable, and how they can promote issues around gender equity without, of course, breaching any of the professional codes, yet achieving a country and a society that is more balanced, that's more equitable, where the people are not discriminated on the basis of gender, especially as provided for by Section 42 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Apart from the registrar, as in the use of inequality, it is worrisome that despite the demographic of women in choosing the leaders, each year is getting worse. We have a new government. How will you set agenda?
Yes, that's the role of the media to set agenda. One, you must hold people accountable to their campaign promises. Okay, Nigeria is signatory to lots of conventions and all, and for a long time there's been the rhetoric of 35% affirmative action. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his campaign promises said women would play prominent role in his government. We've seen his appointments for essays to the president, and we've seen that about 10 appointments, 2 women are featured. That is 20% of the appointments so far women are. That is a far cry. So the media needs to go back, look at the promises that Tinubu made as presidential candidate, and hold him to his promises by reminding him, making it a sing-song everything, reminding him, and of course using references to countries that have brought women into a position of leadership and the progress they have been making since then. So it has to be, media has to be involved in the advocacy and persuasion of this new government in order to give women their place of pride.
What's your designation again?
Well, I'm the Executive Director of Men Against Rape Foundation. journalist and a child and gender rights advocate.
I'm an assistant director of programs presentation, Nigeria Television Authority.
Gender discussion. We've always had this gender discussion in space. With this program today, tell us what you feel will be
Well, for me, and looking at what the people are presenting today, I'm looking at the role of the media in, budgeting really for gender purposes, and I'm expecting that at the end of this program, this event today, that the Nigerian media, the practitioners, the print, the electronic, even those in the advertising space and public relations space will have more awareness and the realization of the fact that if we do not discuss these issues, if we do not bring them out to the front burner, nobody will do that for us. And especially for women in Nigeria, women really need to be out there. Take a look at the 35% affirmative action. How much of that is being realized presently as we speak today? So if we do not talk about these issues, nobody will talk about them for us. And it's very important that we bring these things to the front burner. So I'm expecting that after today's event, there'll be more awareness. The media would also live up to their responsibilities in playing their part, because we're all partners in progress, and one cannot exist without the other.
One of the things we observe again as a reporter journalist is that the community is discussing about most of the privileged women in areas of power have actually always been invasive when it comes to discussions like this, and the women groups have always never bothered. This community is most vital for discussions like this to help. How far have you reached out to them, and what do you think you can do to bring them on board so a voice will be louder and it will make the job easier for media amplification?
Now, let me give probably an instance here. If you say because a growing child refuses to walk and you abandon that child, will the child ever walk? No. So definitely we just have to keep at it. We must put the pressure on. The ones that are in the corridors of power need to realize that they need to pull those ones that are down, at the lower rung of the ladder up along with them and to support them. Women have to learn to support one another. It's a known fact, and unfortunately, more so in this part of the world, that women do not support one another. But like it or not, we just have to keep ringing the bell. We have to keep saying it loud and clear, because really, like I said before, one cannot exist without the other. And once they realize that, some people supported them getting to where they are, and that if they do not support others to get to where they are or even higher, well, that will be the end for women. If we do not keep talking about it, I'm sure they won't realize it. So, the idea is just to keep talking and poking it right in their faces.
There are some traditional and cultural factors that actually limited, cause a kind of limitation as far as the women is concerned, particularly in the northern region. Now, the new lawmakers come around. So what is your message? Because some of the lawmakers still have that mentality regarding the cultural, religious, and traditional mentality about the women not to be at the ends of it. What's your message?
You see, the truth of the matter is this: we cannot say it enough. Even with the lawmakers that have just been sworn in with the inauguration of the 10th Assembly, we just cannot say it enough. Yes, I am one for tradition. I am one for our cultures. But excuse me, how far have these cultures and traditions taken us? Women have been seen to be breaking the glass ceilings across the world. So what is the difference? What makes the Nigerian woman different? What makes her different from the woman in Canada, from the woman even in Zimbabwe, from the woman in Morocco? We have women, these, even in the far northern, the really Islamic countries, we still have women rising to the top. We had a woman who became a prime minister in Pakistan. So please, what is the difference? What makes the Nigerian woman different? We just have to wake up and smell the coffee and realize that these limitations are not getting us anywhere. And we must keep talking about it. It is very, very important. And of course, our men folk must also support us. Thank you very much. well made up and all of that, how much do you achieve, especially when you're to operate in a rough terrain? I can't hear you. I can't hear the response. Okay. So I rest my case there. Anyway, that's not taking anything away from our agenda. We are women and we are proud to be women. And I work with the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. You know? I don't know. All right. I want to make this as interactive as possible for us because we are all learning from one another. I believe that I'll have a lot to learn from you guys, just the way perhaps you might have one or two things to learn from me. And when I saw this topic that I'm supposed to be making a presentation about, I was wondering why all this plenty grammar? Because it's really a long and winded grammar saying gender responsive budgeting, women's economic and political inclusion, and the role of the media. And I know that growing in this business, one thing that I was told very early is to keep it short and simple. That's the key rule. I'm sure you are aware of that. So I want us to get a clearer understanding of what we're talking about. And so we're going to break it into phases. What exactly do we mean by gender responsive budgeting when we're talking in the real sense of it? For me, I've been able to come up with a few things. And please feel free to stop me along the way if you have any questions you want to ask. I would say gender responsive budgeting is an approach that ensures that government budgets consider the different needs and priorities of men and women. We cannot take away the fact that there are men in the society, just the way there are women. And of course, for us in Nigeria, we only recognize these two genders. Or have we recognized the third? So when we're talking about gender responsive budgeting, we recognize the fact that men and women often have distinct roles, responsibilities, and experiences in society, and aims to address the gender inequalities and disparities that exist in budgetary decisions. I'm sure you'll agree with me that there are disparities really. So some will feel that women receive more, while some will believe that men receive more. I'm sure you all have your individual opinions on this matter. In simple terms, gender responsive budgeting means looking at how money is allocated and spent by the government and making sure that it takes into account the specific needs and concerns of men and women. But for this purpose, women. Men, please don't feel bad here. It involves analyzing how budget decisions can affect different genders and making adjustments to promote equality and fairness. For instance, let's say the government is planning to allocate funds to probably healthcare. When we have gender responsive budgeting, the government will definitely consider the specific health needs of men and women. They might even allocate additional resources to address women's health issues, like maternal care or reproductive health services. I believe that every woman here is of a childbearing age. And I'm sure that even with your children, when you have children, or for those that already have, it will give you a world of peace when you know that your children are properly catered to. And probably they're not far off from you, especially the ones in creches and all of that. That we do not have so much of here. I know that raising my own kids, I had to bring my kids to the office. And I'll come to the office so early in the morning. I used to have a beat started at 6:30. So I must be in the office by 6, meaning that I must be out of my house with my baby for about 5. And we will stay in the office till sometimes as late as midnight. In fact, my son had a corner in my office. So the nanny would always come with him. And he'll eat, take a bath and everything there. I'll go out to work, come back, he's still there. And so that's the only way I could get to interact with my child. But if, for instance, NTA had like a crèche where I knew that my son was going to be catered to properly, I'll keep him there. And I'll also be able to work, with peace of mind. I'm sure the same thing goes for you guys too. So with gender responsive budgeting, they will consider the specific health needs of men and women, allocate resources and all of that. Now, overall, Gender responsive budgeting helps governments identify and rectify any biases or inequalities in the distribution of resources. Having said so much about gender responsive budgeting, from my own understanding, the issue of women's economic and political inclusion in gender responsive budgeting is all about making sure that women have equal opportunities and representation in economic and political spheres when it comes to budgeting decisions. So far, am I making sense? Now, we have talked about gender responsive budgeting because I said I'm going to break this topic down into bits so that we take it one after the other in order to gain traction. Now, let's look at what we mean by women's economic and political inclusion. Economic inclusion actually means ensuring that women have fair access to resources, job opportunities, and financial support. These are three key issues: resources, job opportunities, and financial support. In many societies as we have in Nigeria, women face challenges like gender discrimination, unequal pay, and limited access to credits and loans. Gender responsive budgeting aims to address these issues by considering the specific needs and barriers faced by women in economic activities. It may involve allocating funds for programs that promote women's entrepreneurship, vocational training, and support services for work-life balance, like affordable childcare facilities. By including women's economic needs in the budget, it helps to create a more equitable and supportive environment for women to thrive economically. For now, I'm sure that, except there's somebody here who can prove me wrong. In a lot of homes in Nigeria, much as we commend our men, we salute their resilience. I'm sure that a lot of us will agree that women are the mainstay of most Nigerian homes, even economically today. Am I wrong? Can anybody prove me wrong here? Please, like I said, we're interacting. No, the men might have a few things to say. Okay. Not fully, it's a thesis, okay. But I have tried to look at some friends, some colleagues, and we have put together some of their figures, their earnings, as against their husband's earnings. Do you agree with me that as a man, in your order of priority, especially if your wife is working, that you would always expect support from your wife, right? At the same time, you have responsibilities to your family. That's talking about your parents, your siblings, and all of that. By the time you break down what you earn in a month, and you have to do all of this, tell me for a fact, and truthfully too, how much comes to your home? How much of your earnings come to your home in 30 days that make 1 month?
I should say about
Less than 40%. Okay. Now that less than 40%, how much can it do? No, please. You see, women, you have your own thoughts, but the guys also have their own thoughts. And it's important that we all try, we all have our own ideas, but we meet at some point. There has to be a happy medium. When you look at your less than 40%, how well or how much do you think you can do in the home in 30 days?
But you believe that at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that the 40% that is coming into the house and the 60% that is elsewhere, you break it down, you get to look at it like, okay, this man might have other investments that mine is a long-term loan. I don't know what I'm saying, like in the long term, being, let's just say, be a standing foundation
For the family. Okay, can I also ask you a question here? Let's go about Nigeria. What's going to happen before those investments mature? She might be impatient. No, but forget about her impatience. What happens to your children? What happens to you feeding? What happens to your health care when all those investments are trying to mature?
No, the woman comes in. Don't be shaking.
Sorry?
That's where the woman comes in.
Nothing will come in. Somebody was saying something
That's
there.
where the woman comes in. That pause, that extra pause. That's when they open it.
I like that. I'm glad you realize that extra pause, that secret pause is there. Well, we're not, like I said before, we're not taking anything away from the men. You guys are fantastic. I look at the resilience of the average Nigerian man, and any day, anytime. I'm talking about the responsible Nigerian man. Any day, anytime, I doff my hat for you. Because to be able to survive in this climate that we have found ourselves, wow, it's not easy. So please, women, give our guys a round of applause. They really deserve it. Sorry? No.
My clap is for the ones that are genuinely trying.
That's why I said the responsible ones. That's why I said the responsible ones. I mean, anyone that is not responsible will know that he doesn't deserve that clap. Yes. So, because we know that women are very supportive in the homes, it is important also that their needs be put into consideration when the government is drawing up budgets. That's where, I'm coming to with that, discussion that we just had. Now, gender-responsive budgeting aims to address these issues by considering the specific needs and barriers faced by women in economic activities. Basically, what we need for our women is to be economically viable and stable so that they can also contribute their own quota. And even in the homes, when the man does not have, the children do not need to know that the man does not have. It may involve allocating funds for programs we've gone through that. By including women's economic needs in the budget, it helps to create a more equitable and supportive environment for women to thrive economically. Participation in decision-making processes, particularly in politics. Historically, and more evidently today, in the newly sworn-in administration, women have been underrepresented in political positions and their voices have been marginalized thus far. A yes or a no?
Yes.
Thank you. If you take a look at the newly inaugurated 10th National Assembly of Nigeria, how many women altogether do we have in both the green and the red chambers? Can anybody tell me? Who? I need to hear clearly. How many women do we have in both the green and the red chambers?
17 or 16.
Thank you, 17. We only have 17. 3 in the Senate and 14 in the House of Representatives. That is what we have. And that makes it 3 less than what we had in the 9th National Assembly. In the 9th National Assembly, there were 20 of them. Now it has reduced to 17. Thus putting women's representation in this 10th National Assembly at a paltry 3.62% in a country where we have over 200 million Nigerians. What does that say about us? What does that say about women? What does that say about the total population, the generality of Nigerians? In Nigeria, the extant national gender policy recommended 35% affirmative action, seeking more inclusive representation of women with at least 35% of both elective political and appointing public service positions, respectively. How much of this has been reflected so far? That's a question for us to ponder upon. Gender-responsive budgeting recognizes the importance of women's perspectives and experiences in shaping budgetary decisions. It involves promoting women's political empowerment by allocating resources for initiatives that encourage women's political participation, such as training programs, awareness campaigns, and support for women candidates. By recognizing women's political inclusion in budgeting, it helps to create a more diverse and inclusive political landscape where women's voices are heard and their needs are taken into account. It is therefore safe to say that women's economic and political inclusion in gender-responsive budgeting is all about ensuring that women have equal opportunities, access to resources, and representation in both economic and political decision-making processes, with a view to addressing the historical disadvantages and biases that women face and promote a more equitable and inclusive society. Now, this brings me to our major question here, to what you and I are here to do today. What, therefore, is the role of the media in women's economic and political inclusion in gender-responsive budgeting? Can anybody tell me what the role of the media is? Everything that you guys have said here is correct. Now, I've narrowed it down to a few points here. Succinctly put, the role of the media is to raise awareness, provide information, and advocate for gender equality in economic and political spheres. The media plays an important role in shaping public opinion and influencing social norms. When it comes to women's economic and political inclusion, the media can contribute in several ways, such as awareness and information. The media can help raise awareness about the challenges women face in economic and political spheres. It can provide information about gender disparities, discriminatory practices, and the importance of gender-responsive budgeting. By highlighting these issues, the media can educate the public and policymakers, leading to a better understanding of the need for gender equality. Another role is representation. The media can promote the visibility and representation of women in economic and political contexts. By featuring stories of successful women entrepreneurs, leaders, and professionals, the media can challenge stereotypes and inspire other women. This representation helps to normalize women's participation and highlights their achievements, contributing to a more inclusive and diverse society. Now, basically, what this point is saying is that we can help to blow our own trumpets. The media can help to blow the trumpet of the average Nigerian woman. For me, I celebrate every woman. The woman selling akara on the streets, I celebrate her. The body seller, I celebrate her. I celebrate a woman who is doing great at her job. I celebrate a woman who is doing so well, being a fantastic mother. Because once you see the children of such a woman, you know that these children have a fantastic mother. I celebrate the women who are living out there. Somebody was asking me a question out there a few minutes back, saying that yes, in Nigeria we have some biases, we have some challenges where culture, tradition, and even religion, to a large extent, seems to hinder the average Nigerian woman from being able to achieve her potentials. Are you also agreeing to this point? Okay, please can you tell me what your thought is on that? I think I want you to use the microphone.
Responding to what you're saying, I think I would say I agree more with your line of thought, because the truth is, we are Nigeria. We say we are a very religious society. Apart from like our cultures and our tradition playing a major role in what we do, we tend to lean more on religion, either the Islamic religion or the Christian aspect. And why I say this is this: I'm going to use like a typical example of an association in which I am to portray my reason. With no offense, and I'm not trying to downplay or insult any association. There's this religious association, very really good. Now, somebody introduced me to this association, and what made me love this association was I like to be in a garden of women where everybody tried to strive for something. But there's something that struck me in this association when you have like marital issues, especially when it comes to domestic violence, and then you receive, they'll tell you to pray for your husband. Like I really, I say, I am an open-minded person, and when I go to this, many people criticize this organization, but for me, I feel like even until now, even while I am speaking on it, I still attend this organization. Yes, but I feel like for me, I have a take why I go there, and there are some kind of preaching. It's not just there's some kind of preaching that they do, and I just sit there and like, this preaching today is not for me, because it's so much against the law about women. This is a woman coming to tell, like, though they will not call her name, but you will feel, you don't need for somebody to call your name for you to feel that this person is talking about you. If the facts is there, if what you have said is there, like word for word and line for line, and then you are being battered, you are suffering this persecution with one, you have to treat yourself over and over again, and then somebody is telling you to pray for the person who is making you suffer. Like, I don't understand. What about the health of the woman? What about the mental suffering you're taking this woman through? And sometimes it is not that because these men provide 100% for them. You see some of these women, they still struggle. They're like some of them still, I could say some are breadwinners of the family. But then you still have to take that suffering of, yes. And then they have a slogan like, we don't encourage divorce. We don't encourage divorce. We encourage. There's a way they put it. I can't remember it. Yes, I can't remember it word for word now. But it's not really in a gathering of women. Instead of working to see how you better the life of the women in which you are working with, you are thinking of praying for that man which is out there enjoying himself. I don't understand. A man that is catching his cruise, a man that is doing all he is enjoying, and then he comes to lay that suffering on you, and then you leave yourself instead of taking care of yourself, instead of praying for yourself. What is it? You don't need prayers. Instead of praying for yourself, you go back on your knees and pray for your abuser. Like, it still bothers all this. And this goes to the back end. Like, you get some specific days, you get that we have like this, it's like a war center. When we have to pray, you are not going back to your maiden home. That's your father's house, because you have to remain in your home. That is an act. That is a disgrace. Yes, that's the word they use. And then I begin to wonder. I begin to question myself. This is you being battered physically, emotionally, financially, and then somebody is telling you, is giving you these guidelines like, God forbid, you cannot go back to your maiden home. What if that maiden home is the only place where you find solace? What if that maiden home is your safe comfort, your safe place? So because you need to keep up to tradition, which once you are married, you should remain married, you have to suffer everything. And then we still go back to our issue of culture of silence. And you see, sometimes when people have
one house so that
when people have these issues, they don't want to tell it out, because in the long run, it's either you become the mockery of the society, or I have had people in my family circle who have insulted and talked down on someone who had the courage of leaving her matrimonial home and praising on social media that person who did not, how will I say, and castigating someone on social media who did not leave her husband home and died in the process.
Traditional, cultural, even societal limitations to women. Do you agree to this? And if you do, what do you think those limitations are? Do you understand? So what are those? Do you agree in the first instance that there are limitations to women reaching their potentials in Nigeria?
I answer. Can I ask you a question?
Please go ahead.
They believe this thing that says the power of a woman. They believe in it. Then we should know there are hidden powers. There's no in this context. I
think you should make me understand.
Elaborate on
hidden powers. To make me understand these hidden powers.
that yes, you talked about Nigeria being a religious country. Are you saying you're not aware that religion limits women in Nigeria? Sorry? Are you saying that our cultures and traditions do not limit women? Are you saying that, oh, fantastic. Are you saying that our society does not limit women in how far they can go? Hold on. As much as I agree, does that take away from the fact that you're a Nigerian man? No. Now, when you say modernization is kicking in, I just gave you some figures of representation in the National Assembly. 17 women in a country of over 200 million human beings. Not our goats and sheep inclusive. Humans, you and I, the two gender that we recognize. And you only have 17 of one gender to represent their gender, at least to a large extent. And like it or not, I'm sure you'll also agree with me that even though I don't have the figures there, the population of women is more than that of the men.
Yes.
So how come our women cannot get to maximize their potentials? How come we're having 17 women in the National Assembly? How come a woman will tell her husband she wants to go into politics, and the first thing the man will say is, what are you going to do there? That's on the terrain for women. How come the society will say, women in politics? No, your wife must be a prostitute to be in politics because all the men are going to sleep with her. How come we will say a woman's place is in the kitchen? How come we will say, sorry, I'll come to you. How come it is easy for us in this part of the world to say no? Okay, yes, you can be a working class woman, but there's only so far you can go. What happened to a woman being the president? And just like I said out there, Pakistan, I'm sure is more Islamic than Nigeria. We cannot be more Christian than the Pope. Neither can we be more Islamic than the Prophet, peace be upon him. But in Pakistan, they had a Bhutto, who was a prime minister. She's female. There have been countries where we have had female leaders. Why can't we achieve that in Nigeria? Hillary Clinton tried it in the US and we thought that she was going to be able to break the glass ceiling. But just at the last minute, she could not. We would have had a female governor here in Nigeria, but also at the last minute, things played out. Nigeria played out. So, what happens to us? Why can't we also go that far? You seem to be muttering a question. What is it? Let's hear your thoughts.
They need light, they need water, and they need shelter. When you're able to provide this for your citizens, they go to their normal, natural way that God has already put in place. Yeah. Now, this is where the man comes in and plays the God in the whole thing, and his word rules. When he says sit down, you sit. He says jump, you tell him how high. Do you understand? That is where it comes in. So when the government are able to put most of these things in place, we will definitely break the barrier. That is from my
Right. Thank you.
Let's start with the home. You have in a household, a mother comes back and sees her children playing outside. She scolds the girls first and say things like, you don't know you're a girl, you're supposed to be inside, you're supposed to be in the kitchen. One thing that it does to women, it limits their thinking for a lot of ladies. Because they just think, a lot of people just grow up thinking, okay, this is the way I'm supposed to just, grow up. Okay, if I have an education, that's fine. But I am living my life to please the man in quotes. They are grooming us to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother. But nobody is actually saying, oh, you can aspire to be whatever you want. Yes, they can tell you go to school, do this, oh, you can be a doctor, you can be a this, you can be that. But they are always putting something, there's always something to say at the end of the day, it is your home, it is your fight. Let me come to being a single girl in Nigeria. If you're single and you're doing very well, you're not even allowed to express or enjoy your money. My mom said something to me some time ago. I think it was in 2017. I was talking about someone, but we had the conversation. I talked about someone I really love and I looked up to.
We're having a divided house
My
here.
mom asked me how old this person was, and I said she was around 35. My mom then asked, is she married? That's one question as a single, as a lady in Nigeria. When someone asks you for your age, you should know they are going the marriage route. If you have money, no matter how much you have worked for it, you're not even allowed to enjoy yourself. You're not allowed to drive a very good car. And my mom said something, and she's driving that kind of big. I got her shocked immediately. I'm the last child in my house, but I'm the one with the loudest voice. Once my mom started saying something relating to that, or what, I caught her shocked immediately. Just look at me, you are your mouth. You know, and let's go into marriage now. You're married, and a lot of men in Nigeria have this ego. So when maybe the woman was not earning as much when she got married, and the minute the woman starts, she starts climbing in her career. Sometimes that man might actually be a supporter, but the society we live in, the man goes out and people are having a conversation, and they begin to say, when the woman is earning this way, or when the woman begins to do this, she's going to disrespect you. Don't let your woman fly. Don't give her wings. And tomorrow, maybe this woman comes to her, maybe she's stressed or something happens. That is not her usual way of responding. Maybe she responds in a certain way. That man picks it up. He now says, oh, because you are now earning this, or because you are now doing so well, I will clip your wings. This is society. These are the effects, of society. There's so much. There's a lot we can say. A round of applause for her. Okay, you have a real
Some women don't generalize.
I won't generalize, but I would say about 75 to 80% of the women.
That's stereotype.
No, that's just the truth. 75 to 80%. Like a young girl now will see a lady putting in his and she'll tell you that. Yeah, that's what they do.
Okay.
What they say. Okay, that's
Let's make it quick, please. Let's make it
You have come from the background you came from.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Going forward. Now, this gender thing we're talking about, it's in what we say and what we do every day. Do you know that a single lady now to rent a house in Abuja is very difficult? I rented a house and I had to bring my ID card with. If my landlord photocopied me the ID card of where I work, and he kept it, I asked why. And I said, well, single ladies only pay for rent the first year because sugar daddies and rubber boys pay for them. Subsequently, maybe they not end up quarreling with them. Nobody to now pay to them, they will not become a burden. That's fine. And then number two, most of the industries you're seeing, have you ever tried to investigate mining sector, how women cope in that sector? It's crazy. You will pity them. Do you know that the laws are in place? How you have to get equipment, how you have to get money, how you have to. And women don't have properties. So where are they even supposed to start from? Or is it politics you want to talk about? So that. No.
Gender acceptance or gender equality in society. We should need to understand something. The woman has, to me, I think the woman even has upper hand in the society than to the men. But let's just think it this way. How about in just like so I think somebody was very trying to mention something. If you go for an interview, there's a place where they write normally before that interview commencement. They write, if you're a woman, it gives you more opportunity. So what are we supposed to say with that statement?
Hey,
That is why we are here. That is why I'm saying that all these things that we are actually saying still boils down to the fact that if I myself as a man will perform my rightful function and the woman performing her rightful function, I will not get to that place of reaching this down.
Alright.
That's what I'm saying.
Alright. Thank you. The women agenda to help an inclusive policy for women in budgeting especially. And the point that got us here is representation. The media can promote the visibility and representation of women in economic and political contexts. Meaning that when we feature, when we write stories of successful women entrepreneurs, leaders and professionals, the media can challenge these stereotypes that we already have that are existing, like the stereotype her mom has about a young girl not having such, a car, about a young girl not having so much money. We can help to correct these kind of stereotypes and inspire other women to be able to reach for greater heights. This representation helps to normalize women's participation and highlights their achievements, because there are so many women out there who are achieving, but because they're so worried of how the society sees them, they prefer to stay in their little corner. They prefer, no, please, whatever it is I'm doing, let me just keep it in this little space. Before the society will say, oh, I'm sleeping with A, I'm sleeping with B. Oh, and so? All right, so their representation helps to normalize women's participation and highlight their achievements, contributing to a more inclusive and diverse society. Another role of the media is advocacy and accountability, and I think somebody mentioned that there. The media can hold governments and policymakers accountable for promoting women's economic and political inclusion, like the case of the 35% affirmative action for inclusion of women at all levels. Through investigative journalism and reporting, the media can shed light on budgetary decisions and their impact on gender equality. It can also amplify the voices of women advocating for change, creating pressure for gender-responsive budgeting and policy reforms. Meaning that the media must hold government accountable at every step of the way. Good enough, we have just inaugurated a new administration. We keep talking about the 35% affirmative action. Fine, we have erred at the National Assembly. Must we allow the government to err in selecting and appointing women into elected positions? Are we going to keep quiet and let it all go like that? Well, that's a question for you and I to answer. Another role of the media is public discourse and dialogue, as we are having today. The media can facilitate public discourse and dialogue around women's economic and political inclusion. By providing platforms for discussions, debates, and interviews, the media can encourage conversations on gender equality, policy gaps, and the importance of inclusive budgeting. This public engagement can foster support for gender-responsive budgeting and lead to societal changes. In summary, the media has a very crucial role to play in shaping public opinion and holding those in power accountable, thereby contributing to a more equitable and inclusive society. Now, that's the summation of what I have for you. But can I ask you a question? And I want you to answer this question honestly. As individuals in your little space, what have you been able to do before now to promote gender issues, to promote inclusive budgeting for women in both the economic and the political space? I want to hear from you guys. What have you done? Are you saying in your reportage there has been nothing to promote, gender-responsive budgeting for women, especially in economics and politics? What we're speaking to here. No gender is more superior than the other. Like it or not, you see, the way the world order is drawn, there are some parts of the world where things are done different. For instance, here in Nigeria, and mostly in Africa, people believe, okay, it's the man's world, right? There are some societies that are, matrilineal, not patrilineal. For instance, an Indian, no matter what you make, as a man, no matter how good you are, how big you are, how successful you are, the woman is the head of the home. She directs the affairs in the home. We are not Indians. We are Nigerians. We don't want to say this person is superior to the other. But we must all learn to cohabit as one. We are partners. You know, I said that earlier, that God created us as partners. You are my partner, I am your partner. And we're working together for one common good. So until we realize that, we will keep having this issue. Until the men realize that they are not superior, that because they are men and perhaps they are physically stronger, that does not make them superior to the woman. And until the women also realize that, okay, because they have this maternal instinct, because they are able to multiply, that does not make them superior to the men. That is when we will have peace and be able to actually tackle the issues that confront us head on. Because the issues that we face are the same. Excuse me, you and I, okay, are you not buying fuel at 540 naira per litre? Is there a different price for a woman? Or is there a different price for a man? When you go to the market, is it not the same pepper seller that will sell to the man and to the woman? It's the same thing. Is it not the same fees our children are paying in schools? Is it not, don't we all deal with the same issues left, right, and center? So why do we have to start quarreling about, one gender is superior, one is inferior? We don't need that. For us to make progress, we do not need that. And when we realize this, we will understand the fact that, okay, bad as it is today, that women have been underrepresented, we must all work towards ensuring that women get proper representation and that women issues are brought to the fore, especially economic and political issues when budgets are being determined. It is left for you and I to keep our ears open, to keep our eyes open, that when policies are being made, we should ensure that women are represented. We should ensure that, okay, when the government is appointing, their political officers, their political appointees and all that, okay, you have appointed 10. You can have 6 for men and 4 for women. At least let's start from there. That way, we will know that, yes, we're also bringing something to the table, and that what we're bringing to the table is being appreciated. I don't know if that makes sense at all here. So that is the way to go, please. We are not competitors. We are partners, and let us continue to talk, right and right. That is the only way we can get gender responsibility for women. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Those of us who initially didn't want to say anything, we found our voice because these issues resonate with us. Can we clap for her once again? So, do you have any question, any feedback? Because I'm sure there are still issues that are in our minds that we want to get out of the way. Any follow-up to something you said earlier?
For the positions, they are at the presidency or the people in charge of appointments. What if it's men that are more qualified to be in those offices? So would they skip the men and pick the women because they want there to be gender balance? Okay?
Yes. Now, when we're talking of qualification, take a look at yourself. Take a look at your early years growing up. Tell me in truth, the population of the women, the girls that were in your class, how well they performed. Did they perform well? Did they not perform well? In society today, we have women who, in fact, what they have upstairs here cannot be quantified. What they bring to the table cannot be quantified. So when we're talking about appointing women to positions, I'm not saying go and pick anybody. I'm not saying go and take from the rung of the ladder because you want to have women in power. No. Search for those women who are qualified, who even bring more to the table than the men. You know that in this society as things are today, women, no matter where you find yourself as a woman, you have to do more. You have to work doubly hard to make your impact. Every day, my colleagues come to work, and I ensure that much as Some people will leave me in the office and go away. But I will stay because I have to prove myself. I have proven myself over the years, but I have to keep proving myself so that nobody thinks it's a fluke. I was, one of my programs aired on Wednesday. I don't know if you guys know Taiwa Jai License. You don't know the name Taiwa Jai License? She's a veteran filmmaker. She's a woman who has made this country very, very proud. She has not just worked on the local level, she actually started in the UK. And she has done so well for herself. And she told me something, she shared a story with me. She said her very first experience on stage acting, she did a piece on Patrice Lumumba. And everybody, she did not train to be an actor at that time. Everybody at the London Theatre gave her a standing ovation. She was just a young girl. She actually snuck away from home. She ran away from Nigeria to the UK, but somehow she found herself acting. She said one thing came to her mind when they were all clapping and eulogizing her. She said to herself, is it me they're clapping for? And I lie, this is fake. I am fake because I know that I do not possess the qualities that they seem to be seeing in this person. And what did she do? She went back to school. She read. She schooled herself through. She made sure that she burns the midnight oil to get to where she is today. And so even we as women, when we are talking about being given equal opportunities, we must also be ready to burn that midnight oil. We must be ready to perform. We must be ready to bring something to the table. And when they are making appointments of women, then we're not asking them to go to the low rung of the ladder. Look for women that have this thing for them. They say that because they want to pick women, that Amina Mohammed, that when we represent us at the United Nations, that because she's just a woman. No! She has it upstairs. Okonjo Iweala has it upstairs. So I'm not saying just look for any woman. Yeah, you want to say? Yeah. So, but then when we look at the GSAI,
it doesn't mean they don't have the competence and the quality. So we shouldn't necessarily be looking out for experience over competence and quality. If we don't give them the opportunity to try, then how do we know that they have these skills to triumph in this sector? So it should be more of quality, competence, ability, capacity to do the work than, okay, you have done it before. What if the person you're bringing now has that experience but in a mundane version? So what happens to the person who has relevant skills that are up to date and has not been given that platform yet to showcase or to do those things? So I think quality and all these things should come first, and then experience could be like a second thing.
Moved by what he sees and maybe woman is moved by emotions. Let's say you want to pick someone for the Minister of Petroleum, and you have a woman that has done well, that has carved out something for her, a name for herself, and you also have this competitive man also that is there that can also fit in that position and can do the work very well also. Now, let's say we put them to test, and the test has to do with emotions. Now, how do you think the result will come out? I want you to explain more and tell me how you think a woman or the female can conquer this their emotional thing.
It's your question, yeah?
I don't think there's anything to conquer. There is absolutely nothing to conquer. You cannot change who you are. You cannot change the way God has created you. Men are visually stimulated. That is why a man will look at a pepper seller and see her as Miss World. But not the same for a woman. So, and that is why when appointments are being made, interviews are being carried out, it is not by one person and it's not by one gender. So that while the woman is seeing from the emotions, and the man is also seeing from the physical, the man is looking at the cheek, he's looking at the vein, but the woman is also asking herself, what is she bringing to the table? Can she perform optimally as a woman? So it is the thoughts of both parties that will help to pick the best candidate. That's why you don't leave the judgment to just one. And don't conquer anything. Na lie, you know it. You go out there, I'm sure even in this hall, they are looking, okay, find this, they are finding their chicks here. You see what I mean? So, well, we've been told that that's the second and the last question. I do hope you guys have learned a thing or two. I do hope you've enjoyed our interaction, and I look forward to having more of such interactions with you guys. In case you have any questions you want to ask, I can quickly share my number with you. 080 33 00 6876. I'll take it again. 080 33 00 6876. And my email is lolade, LOLADE dot OAA @gmail.com. lolade.oaa@gmail.com. Please feel free to get in touch anytime. We'll keep learning. Sorry?
You see?
lolade.oaa. The Lolade, the L is a small letter L, sorry. LOLADE dot OAA@gmail.com. Small letter L. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
So let's clap for her. Read as much as you can. That's my final take. So let's clap for our keynote presenter. She has done a very good job. And at this point, we're going to go back to the presentation by participants, their organization and their work that they've done.
Everyone, my name is Mercy, and I report for Dajik TV News. So my introduction, Dajik TV News, also known as DCTV News, is an independent online news outlet with over 1.5k subscribers and viewership across various nations of the world. It is founded in March 2019 with out of passion to project national issues to the world by David Oko, a passionate journalist. The outfit is focused on projecting national matters such as politics, human angle stories, entertainment, etc. Then who is Mercy? Mercy AK is a reporter with DCTV News, focused on issues relating to politics, basically on women, youth, and children. She is a voice-over artist, a trained peace advocate, a social media marketer, and also a freelancer, just to mention a few. Thank you.
At CSO Media, it's a news arm of the CSO network. It's an online news platform that provides breaking news, entertainment, and other educative and informative content. It was launched in 2020. At CSO Media, we generate and publish verified news content. We also exchange and feed from renowned news blogs and content providers. With our platform, we run live and regular news broadcasts across various sectors from sports to business dailies, technology, politics, science, lifestyle, and the rest. Our vision is to broaden the network beyond its current online presence into a print and televised broadcasting media. And as a reporter, my role is to scout for news and reporting, conduct interviews, sample opinions, write profiles for individuals and corporate entities, and also carry out surveys and research.
Can we clap for him? Okay, you have a question. We have a question. Okay.
that supposedly benefit or should benefit from governance, just like you and I. Can we start from this? What comes to your mind having read these things? What's the first thing that comes to your mind having read this? It's an interactive session. What comes to your mind having read this? Yes? Can we project it?
One thing I noticed in almost all the stories I read is the finding people getting justice. So almost all the cases, either PNF was able to help people and trying to get justice in the case. It's almost like almost all of them, number one, like key thing, it's almost like very difficult for them to get justice.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Most of the victims here are girls, little girls, abused from either their parents or people within the neighborhood.
So I'd like to connect that to the UN data on the number of people. Before people are 18 years old, you know, they are going to get, will be exposed to some degree of violence. And it's important to remind us that a lot of the data that we have is actually underreported cases. But from the underreported cases that we have, majority of what has come in, you know, shows particular precedents. What else did we notice?
State of
Poverty, state of helplessness. What else? So, abuse is within the family. However, the Child's Rights Act, right, mandates us to take action in the best interest of the child. Who is the number one person likely expected to take interest in the best interest of the child? It will be. You understand? And so when this father, who is sexually abusing this person, says this child is too stubborn, that's why I'm always beating the person. How do we come through for the child? For children who are from dysfunctional families, what are the options they have to access help in the event of need for help? I'm just using these real human being stories to make your brains go to different directions to wonder about certain things. Is there any other thing anybody noticed? Early marriage. There's early marriage here.
cultural.
Okay. So harmful cultural practices and beliefs.
Culture of silence.
As a matter of fact, when we displayed this case, we displayed over 70 of them. So I just picked a few when I was coming here. Yes. Impact of religion. Yeah. So do we call it religious blackmail? Any other thing? Well, if we're working with the ones that you have noticed from what you're saying, for governance to work effectively, governance must positively affect the lives of these people. These people are relatives. If I start calling the villages these people are from, I'm sure it may now further get closer to some of us that are sitting in here. If I possibly call the family name of these people, you will say Guinea or Nibo, how, when. Do you understand? But these people have been able to access us and access free and confidential support along the line for different reasons. I'm not sure. Let me see. 3 or 17, 8. Well, so as I was saying, these people have been able to access services, right? So let's think about governance structures. What governance structures should affect these people? we're just doing a random sampling from society. All these people here, do they need access to markets? Markets. Do they need to buy food? Do they need fuel for transportation? And transportation. Yes, they are in Nigeria. They need to participate in society. The little ones, do they need education?
Yeah.
The ones in religious places, do they need the religious places to be safe?
Yeah.
The ones who, all of them need access to justice. So if we're thinking about access to justice and judicial reforms and the rest of it, and we're not thinking about how judicial reforms and access to justice impact on these people, then it's a total failure. Randomly, if this person is denied access to justice, how do you think this person will raise her children if she has 7 children? Are we seeing how the culture of silence and its impact are transferred from generation to generation when we don't put systems in place to checkmate things, right? Did we see in this place people who said they needed different things for survival and all of that? But we have social development secretariat in so many places. We have Ministry of Women's Affairs. We have Ministry of Humanitarian. We have Ministry of Youth. And they're always having sporting events and empowering different people, right? We have the Central Bank of Nigeria. There are all sorts of schemes that they claim are available, amongst other things. But here we see people who need accommodation and other things. Whatever those schemes are, if these human beings cannot access them, are those things a success? The political campaigns, everything, if whatever the Buhari administration claims they did to empower people have not effectively affected these people positively, has it been a success? And governance, I'm not now talking about only the 3 tiers, which will be the federal, state, and local, or the arms of government, which will be the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive arms of government. Irrespective of where we want to look at government or governance from, these random human beings that I have selected today, who will be in the your children's classroom, or they could be attending the same place of worship with you, or they could live in the same street or estate with you, or could come from your village. These people need for governance to affect them positively, right? What is governance if it doesn't? I mean, I would have started from finding out the impact of governance on you first, before we now come to these other people who, if you look at it, some people here will say, I'm in a better situation than these people. But what you are struggling with, these people are struggling with the same thing, in addition to a lot of things. I'll give you some statistics. Majority of the people who we have on suicide watch list in my organization are minors. A minor is anybody below the age of 18. Majority of the people we have on suicide watch list are minors, because we're failing them. We're failing them as family. We're failing them as society. We're failing them as, learning institutions of religious support or something. We're failing them in all ramifications. And then, I'm trying to squeeze everything I have in my head to suit the little time we've been given. Data-driven accountability. First of all, we are all accountability partners to government. Do we agree on that? Everything wrong that is successfully happening as a traditional cultural practice that harms people is successfully happening because we have permitted it. Everything that we have questioned, something was done about it. Typical example, NSAS. When we said enough is enough, even if they didn't mean to give us everything, they pretended like they meant to give us everything. First of all, they said we were joking. But at the end of the day, we saw a lot of conversations coming up. We saw people who ordinarily would not say anything about these things begin to talk about our issues, right? How do we hold people accountable if we are aloof of what they are supposed to do in the places where they are? Let me start by giving us a background. Nigeria is the first country in the entire world that a court has found to be guilty of gender-based violence. And that is in the Dorothy Njemande and 3 others versus the Federal Republic of Nigeria case. Yeah, this Dorothy. But, and this was in 2017. But even with that, has Nigeria's attitude toward gender-based violence changed? Absolutely not. The damages awarded to us in 2017 were in 2023. The damages haven't been paid. A child born in 2017 will be able to converse effectively right now. Am I lying? So, is Nigeria doing any good to us? We need to look at this critically and understand the power of our pen, whichever medium you choose to use your pen, whether you're broadcasting or however you're using your pen as journalists. We need to understand the power of what we put out to the public and the amount of influence it can yield. Now, having looked at all these people, already when we were talking about the problems, I linked one of the existing data to the little that you have seen here. What should we be looking out for? What are the key things that are important if we must have data-driven accountability to support investigative journalism? First things first, you must know where to look. Where and where do we look? Now, many of the places that you can look are under the radar. One of those under the radar places, I would gladly say, are places like the organization in which I work. It is a survivor-run organization, so majority of the people in my organization are survivors. You know what that does? In so many spaces, people within the development space, people look down on us because in their mind, they feel we would rather pity you than give you a legitimate space on the table. And then they go to the table not knowing our realities and want to take decisions or make suggestions to capture our realities, and they make huge blunders of things. Typical example, COVID-19 palliatives. When the palliatives were rolled out, they were rolled out to meet the needs of men. Men needed food. Men needed to give food to their wives and girlfriends and children. Right? Yeah. A lot of the times, look up, usually when there is I don't know if anybody has worked around disaster management or something, or an empowerment project that is supposed to benefit families. Who are the resources usually given to, the man or the woman? Mostly it is the man. And they lean it on cultural practices because people say it's because the man is the head of the family, right? Random question. The portion meant for one family that the man gets, who benefits from it? The one wife or 2 wives that he has, or his wife at home, or his girlfriend, be us in the report, because so many times they will say the family was not ready. But even though the family was not ready, the government is duty bound to protect children. So if we have a means of collecting the data of all the government offices that are turning back children instead of protecting them, then we can move to strategic litigation and do the same thing I did. But keeping quiet and telling them to keep quiet. Remember when I started with the dad and whose responsibility it is? Much as it's their family. In fact, 2 days ago, people from an entire village in Edo State came to tell me to release one girl that we should just pity. That even though he has been raping the daughter since she was 8 years old, since she was 15, that he's still the breadwinner of the family. And her mother just had a baby who is like 2 months or 3 months old now. So we should release what? The man. I say forgiveness is okay. It's our duty to send him. It's God that will do the ultimate forgiveness. Let's send him through the channels, please. When he gets to God. The rehabilitation. I advise, in fact, the church people came to the office to say they came to, hey, leniency or clemency. And said people, I brought out the girl journal, 1 page only, showed it. Different days, the girl was writing the different days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Her father, bloody, biting, all those the things that happened. I said, since you are from the church,
What do you think this girl's prayer was like? This number of days that she has documented here. If she asks God for help, don't you think that where she is now is God's answer to her prayers? The men do not know what to say. I say, but you are the church. What strategy do you have to empower your members? Why don't you empower the woman? Start a business for her. So that she's not a liability to you and to herself or the children. Let the man go through the process he's supposed to go through. Because if you come here one more time, I will treat each of the cases of rape and abuse as an individual crime. So that whatever he goes through, he will get the punishment times the number. Thank you. If you leave me, I'll pick up it. Unless it's 30 seconds. Reporting policy. The DSVA, Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency in Lagos, I'm sure has these resources listed out, the mandatory reporting policy. And if you have challenges, please reach out to the Dorothy Jemase Foundation Survival Support Center. What I can do, I can't promise that I'm going to pick call every time, but I can leave my number. To send a WhatsApp message, I can read it. Does anybody want it?
Your number, of course.
Yes. It's 080 355 23954. Dorothy Jemase is my name. Yes. Anyhow you spell am, if you check internet, you go correct yourself naturally. But I also encourage you to visit the Survival Support Center. If you use Google Map, it will bring you to the place. As a journalist, you can walk in and have interactions. There is a girl that is here, my colleague. She's your ticket to have interactions and possible tour visits, so that you can have more ideas of what to do with the power that you have as a journalist. Thank you for having me.
Communications is going to be taking us on the topic ethics and professionalism in storytelling as a tool for advocacy, influencing policies and promoting democracy. Can we clap for him? Can we clap for him?
Hello and good evening, everyone. I know our time has been well spent and fast spent. Before I start, I want us to distribute those documents. There are some documents there. So I don't have to go deep. You take your time and go through the stuff and take my time to research. But what they have are the guidelines, not the main note itself. So, as he rightly said, my name is Joseph Michael. I'm the creative lead for Tima Communications. I currently also provide my services to Channel Television. He said we used to be colleagues. Yes, I used to work with him at AIT some years ago. And I was there for like 11 years. Joseph Michael. Yeah. So today we'll be talking about the importance of ethics in your profession. Now, this field is the advocacy field, and for those of us who are Christians, we just know who an advocate is. Another advocate is someone that stays in between people to say, I'm speaking for this person on behalf of this person. Now, advocacy is important if you have to come and do well in the field of humanitarian works. You must be a reporter in humanitarianism. You need to learn to write as an advocate. Like if you pick up a newspaper, there's this piece they call the editor's notes, letter to the editor. Usually they take out time to answer a lot of topical issues, current issues in the country. Then at the end of the day, 2 or 3 paragraphs at the end, we call it a call to action. That is the role of an advocate. If you are a journalist, you need to learn how to call attention to things, not just pay attention to things, advocating and holding those in authority to account. Now, if you look at the note I prepared there, my interpretation of what ethics is I say balancing your story upholding the highest standards without compromise. For me, that's the nature of ethics. This job we do, there are a lot of people who, like these guys with opposites. I don't know if you guys know of them. Every event they are there. These ones have no standards. Yes, they have no two standards. Their standards in their belly. People have a degree in communication arts. I have over 60 certifications in the media, and I'm taught to be contented with what I have as an individual. Now, if you come into this profession, a lot of people who think are successful are people who don't have, they have no moral guard. Yes, they have no moral guard. And you must succeed. Your name must be known in this field. You must be ethical. And that's what I'm here to talk to us about. So, from the outline, I said emphasizing the importance of ethical storytelling. And ethical storytelling is important in advocacy, policy influence, and behavioral change initiative. By adhering to ethical principles, storytellers can ensure their narratives are accurate, respectful, and critical. See, she mentioned something about sensationalism earlier on. It is what social media does these days. You've seen a story, the beautiful picture, and they say, let's say, let me pass the end now. Online, Pepe, the village son, killed his wife. That story is trending now. The drama is trending now. Now, kill his wife. Once you see that you're on your phone, you want to click. It's called clickbaiting. They are trying to make sure they bait you into clicking that. The more you click on those links, the more they're making money. Because it's counting for them. Now, when you go into the story, you read the sketchy 3 or 4 paragraphs and they're talking what they said. That is sensationalism. That's on one side. On the other hand, let me tell you something that is true, but exaggerate it. She said something earlier. You meet with a victim who has a story, genuine story. You interview the person. The story is so touchy. Then you go and sit down and embellish it. It is very unethical. Now, a lot of the reporters embellish and exaggerate stories. Why? Because they want to get leadership. In those days when it was newspaper and magazine, people do a lot, tell a lot of lies. Why? Because they want the story to sell. They want to sell more hard copies. Now, when you do that, you will make more sales, definitely. But look at the victim. Yes, the person whose story you are just telling is a person happy. Most reporters don't care about cultivating sources. It is important. If I meet person A, a victim, in an IDP camp, she was raped by the officer who was supposed to protect her at the camp. And she gives me a story. She tells me a story, and I pray for her. I go back and tell the story, and I tell it wrong, and embellish it just to make myself. To know if I go back to that same IDP camp, if that lady sees me, she will approach every other person I approach and say, don't tell me story. Because this person will be misrepresent you. The person will be misrepresent you. So it is very important we take our time, do the right work. I took our time to state that sometimes newspaper, they are one of the strong media houses in Nigeria who do serious investigative journalism. That's why we check all their work, people knowing it. I work at Channel TV. Channel TV, we do investigative work, but not as in-depth as the main time does. Do you know why? They can dedicate an entire 6 months getting data on one story. Now, that is for the newspaper outfits. And maybe right now, they have another online platform. But see, on television, you don't have that time. News happens, we break it and we move on. Yes, news happens, we break it out. Except if you have special programs where you have dedicated special features to expand the story. But it's not the main time because they do dedicated investigative stories. And when those stories come out, they move and shake everywhere. Now, they have have built a reputation over the years for doing that. Now, if the story comes out, nobody tends to doubt what that putting out. That is upholding the highest standard of education. Don't be in a hurry to just found the story. This story just built and want to write and release the story. You don't do that. You should mention things about data, where you can get data from. You don't make her know that's your interest. And so after the interview, he tells you, make sure you capture this way, make sure you do this way. I'm not gonna, I'm not for that. You have just compromised your standards as journalists. Because at the end of the day, you know that when the story breaks, and the story is not told the way you want it to, tomorrow you will not grant to the audience.
Yes.
So you need to learn to balance this thing. It's important. You need to learn to balance. I've worked with a lot of big people, a lot of big names. Until last month I was showing people personally I was a producer. Till today, I didn't know my brother music on Sunrise and I'm a producer. Till today, I don't know if you know Sunrise program itself. I'm the producer of my producer, mostly director. Yes. Now, I don't know if you watched this program, The Chat, Man with Women. The Chat, Man with Women. It's about celebrities, people who have done a lot of greatness in Nigeria. But yesteryears, they come and tell their story. So we call it Life on Celebrate. Now, what might be beginning of that? I've worked with these guys over time, go behind the stage, and I have seen how they work. Most of show, someone will tell you, oh, don't worry, we'll tell you the way you want. You go from there and say something else. I don't know. Yes, he says something else. Sometimes he tells you, when he's calling on the phone, you come on the show, okay, you speak to this topic, you speak, you will not go there, you will not go there. When you come on the show, those things you said you should not ask are the things you will ask. So that way, people might better simple. Politicians know that when they are coming to meet these people, they are right. You don't just come and say anything because there and then they will change you. That is what it means to uphold the highest standard. I used to tell people that I don't compare channels of AIT because like comparing Apple and Apollo. Do you know why? God rest his soul. He's a trained engineer, not a trained broadcaster. You know how Channels TV is a trained broadcaster. Do you understand me? And so your mother will ensure every story has a balance. I'm telling you as a matter of fact, I'm in there. Every story you see on Channels TV has tremendous inputs. Not just every story. Every program you see on air on Channels television, every guest you see speaking on air has been approved by your money. This is business. That is definitely professional. He watches every program. If the program is live, if the anchor is going off, he will drag you back. He will call me as a producer to speak with the person who's on air. Make sure that person asks this certain question certain way. And at the same time, he's going to the person with their phone. Yes. That is the level. That is why you hardly see anyhow guests on Tennessee. Because he is the gatekeeper. And if you observe over time, if you walk into corporate organizations, the children you see on air is most likely channel television. Why? They tested over the years. Standards. Now, our rights still catch up.
Yeah.
Right now, do you know why? The head of this appointment affair used to be at Channels Television, still I do. Yes, she was trained at Channels TV. So she's deploying Channels Television's playbook right now. I'm telling you something inside. Now, why am I saying these things? It is important as a journalist. Why you go out advocating? Why you go out? You know, it's a different thing to tell the story as a straight news reporter. Someone who breaks the news. The building got collapsed, and you know, 10 people died, and you get the police angle, you get the building and construction people angle, and that. No. If you want to humanize that story and bring it in as an advocate story, you now humanize the story by putting one person or two people. How has this death of your breadwinner affected you as a family? How? The man brings 1,000 naira home every day. Right now he's dead. He has 3 children, 2, 6, and 8. Who can take care of himself? He has a wife. He doesn't have a job. Who relies totally on him. Now, your role as an advocate now is to write. In this situation, what is the government going to do to force the hands of the engineers or the contractors or whoever, no, to meet the needs of these people who have lost their loved one also as a result of the fact that they compromise their standards? Do you understand me? That's where the role of an advocate now comes up. But if you just go, as I said, tell the straight story and you're off, people are there suffering. You have not played the role of an advocate. Story, like the storytelling. Respect the right and dignity of individuals portrayed. Cultural sensitivity, obtaining informed consent, avoiding manipulation or exploitation, and ensuring transparency and accountability in storytelling. She just talked about something now before she left. Avoiding manipulation and exploitation. These are 2 very sensitive things you must avoid. I want to get that. Please, we are not in any way, just come and measure. These are 2 very sensitive that you must not gamble with. There are those who go after a story, not in the interest of telling the story. You want to exploit that situation. Let me give you an example. The story of Leah Sharibu, the girl who was kidnapped and she's still not back. At some point, after the story broke, people said a lot. There were those who went to protect the families. Mostly when they came to FCT, you know those days of Jonathan. Yes. There were those who went to the families with the intention of putting the story from the side of the families and their relations with the government. Now, when that story broke, families were mad. The government was upset because the story was told to the brother and they misrepresented it. Yes, it had to require the government to respond to such stories. Now, if you go back, I remember the colleague of mine, George, said, I think 2 or 3 years after they went back, the families came back again and they warned them not to speak with the press because the press is not in that closed door meeting where strong decisions are made. You understand? Now, so the women might not be articulate enough to tell you the stories or respond to you the way you want. Now, they ask certain questions, and you assume this is what she's saying, you now go and tell the story the way you think people will understand it. You have caused the problem between the family and the government. So, as much as we can, let us try to avoid manipulating stories. Let us also try what that thing did was exploiting that situation to sell more copies or to gain more clicks on social media. As best as we can, let us try to avoid that. I'm trying to be as fast as I can. Also, let's look at the area of cultural sensitivity, addressing significance of understanding and representing diverse culture. Understanding and representing diverse culture and perspective is essential in ethical storytelling for advocacy, especially considering the cultural diversity in Nigeria. I saw a video on Instagram some 3 or 4 days ago, and they chronicled the countries with the highest number of languages in the world, and Nigeria was the highest. 120. 520 languages in Nigeria. In River State, no, that by 50. No, sorry, in Gospel, no. Yes, that, I don't know who's on Gospel State here. No one. I understand that in Gospel State, they give them to a boy and a girl, twins. They will understand 2 different languages. Yes, it's deliberate. I can't grow up, the woman will understand what the man is saying, except they speak English. But their main language, the woman will understand what I don't understand.